Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again, and yes, seems like life is getting back to normal. The sun was out today. We're entering Masters Week. The NCAA tournament is down to two teams. We got Sunday night baseball on, at least for this year. We'll see how it goes moving forward, but it's getting to be that time of year where I get super excited. This is where my fandom comes out more than anything. Especially like tonight, watching the Red Sox. Living here in Michigan, we don't get the opportunity to see too many Red Sox games, especially the last couple of years when they've kind of sucked. This year is completely different, but we're going to get into that as well as the NCAA tournament, how it's heating up. Going to give you some. But I forgot. Recap the. Actually, we'll wait on the who's winning the bracket challenge until next week, and I'll actually officially announce it because we have the national title game tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen. The ladies played today, but yeah, let's get this shenanigan moving forward. But yeah, let's get into it with some news. Fresh off the news, as you can see, 2Ks is, well, first of all, it's our 250th episode. How awesome is that? Congrats, 250 episodes. They say that there's millions of podcasts out there. Most of them don't go past episode 5 and actually stay until episode 250. Man, that is awesome. That is awesome. And just the other day, I got the notification that we have been on YouTube for 6 years. How crazy is that? When we started this, it was more... We were focusing more on the audio portion of it because we didn't have a camera, didn't have any of this set up, but slowly evolved. And then I was uploading the video, just the full video podcast. And then it's like, well, hell, I'm a lazy editor, so might as well just do it live. And that way too, we can interact with you guys and gals as well. So that's kind of where it's been, and 2Ks is returning from Florida today. And next week, there will not be a show because Mrs. Turbo and I will be on vacation next week. So I definitely wanted to get in a show regardless if 2Ks was here or not, just because I don't want to leave you guys and gals hanging for 2 weeks. I honestly don't like to do that. But there is a time when you got to unplug and kind of recharge a little bit. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. So ladies and gentlemen, 2K crew, there will be no show next week. But I promise when we come back, we'll be better than ever, and it'll be like we did not leave off. So, but yeah, that's some podcast news to kick everything off. But what's been happening in the world of sports? Well, as we talked about last week, the whole torpedo bat, kind of took at least the baseball world by storm. We saw the Yankees just demolishing baseballs left and right. And I kind of brought up the fact that, maybe it's just because the Brewers pitching sucks. And I think we're seeing everything kind of even out. I mean, we are seeing, Jazz Chisholm and a couple other guys there still continue to have success with them. But I think overall, it is what it is. And then I did see a quote by the commissioner of baseball saying that he really likes the results or the buzz from the torpedo bat. So for those of you that don't like it, it looks like it's here to stay. And like I said last week, it was more or less, I think, a little bit to do with the bat itself and a little bit to do with the Brewers' stinky pitching. And speaking of stinky pitches, got this off Twitter. This is from Bartolo Colon. I wonder how many home runs I would have hit with a torpedo bat. And I have to say, I'm not really... I'm not going to go out on a limb and say a whole ton. Still probably one. But one really cool thing did happen today. Alex Ovechkin passes the great one, Wayne Gretzky, for the all-time goals lead. Something that, when you ask a sports fan, what are some of the most unbreakable records? And I think a lot of us would have said Gretzky's goal record. But Adam Schefter tweeted, Alex Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's record playing in the same amount of games, which to me is the most insane stat. Ovechkin, 895 goals in 1,487 games. Gretzky scored 894 goals in 1,487 games. So this is wild. This is wild only because we keep seeing, especially in the NFL, they went from 16 games or from 14 games to 16 games, now to 17 games, with I'm sure an 18th on the way. And we're still, it's like there's always has to be this asterisk by, so and so's records because they did it in more games in a season. And excuse me. So to have this record be broken in the same amount of games is wild, because it goes to show you the longevity of Ovechkin, how much of a total just beast that he is. And for the longest time, if you remember back, it was him and Sid were like the guys holding court in the NHL to kind of, that's you were either team Ovi or team Sid the Kid. And there was a lot of folks that when Sid was having his success early on, winning Stanley Cups, that, oh, he's nothing but a pussy. He's nothing but a pussy. But Ovi was like this big burly goal scorer, not really the stick handler that Sid is or was. But as we're seeing, Ovechkin, this is pretty badass. And then to add on top of it, for doing it for one team, and his team this season could possibly be the best team in the NHL, even with him at an advanced age scoring over 40 goals this season, and having a chance to not only break the all-time goal scoring record, but be able to have a chance to hoist the Stanley Cup yet again, which, if you don't remember, he had probably the greatest week, 10 days, when the Capitals won the Stanley Cup the last time. Seemed like Ovi was on one and was loving life more than anyone else on the face of this planet. So I, for one, am rooting for that, just so we can kind of see a repeat of that, see how he can take that to the next level. And if he does decide to, ride off into the sunset, so be it. It'll be the perfect ending to an absolutely phenomenal career. But yeah, I'm super excited about that. Super excited about that. Not the biggest hockey guy. I'll be hand up accountable. Not the biggest hockey guy. But when it comes to shit like this, it garners the attention of more than just your traditional hockey fans. The people that are following it game by game by game. This is something that's going to make me be even more drawn to the playoffs and be even more interested, quite frankly, just because of this storyline about who he is. Like I said, going back to the first Stanley Cup, dude went on a bender that lasted longer than I think most college kids have gone on benders. So I for one want to see a repeat of that, or to see what he does in addition to, or something new, just because it was must watch TV. Ovi was must watch TV while he was on this run, and I, for one, cannot wait to see it happen again. Well, there was some NFL news, kind of an odd trade here. This is by a reporter from Ian Rappaport on Twitter. Sources: the Patriots are trading quarterback Joe Milton to the Cowboys in exchange for late-round draft pick compensation. A new backup for Dak Prescott, Milton went 22 for 29 for 241 yards and a touchdown in Week 18 last year, a New England win. The potential is there, now a new home. So what does this ultimately mean for Dak Prescott? Well, I think, first and foremost, Bregman just goes deep. Red Sox are up 10-1, bottom of the third against the Cardinals. This is the backside of a doubleheader today because they got rained out yesterday. So we're going to get into that. I just had to pause and kind of see if that really did go. But what does this trade mean for Dak? Ultimately, nothing right now. Dak Prescott is the highest paid player in the NFL, highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Is he injury prone? Yeah, he really is. He's very injury prone. And add to that, if you look at what the Cowboys did last year after he went down, now is Joe Milton the next coming of the best quarterback on the planet? TBD. TBD. I mean, this was a guy going back to, I believe he started at Michigan and then ended up at Tennessee, I think. Has always had a rocket arm, fast as hell, just really couldn't put it all together. And then when he did start for the Pats last year, you know, we've all seen the clip of him. It kind of looks like the end of end of the game drill where he's just running around, and then throws it and completes it. But I'm curious to see this because I don't think, well, New England's terrible or was terrible last year. And since they have Drake May, they really don't need someone with the upside like this. I mean, yes, having a good backup quarterback is always important, but to have one with trade value like this and to find a partner in it where, like the Cowboys, where there's always, pretty much ever since Dak was named the starter there's been this up and down. You're either team Dak or team not. And there's a lot of people, even though he's won a lot of games there, saying that he is a terrible quarterback. I honestly don't think he's a terrible quarterback by any means, but it always seems like there's an excuse as to why this team hasn't won in the playoffs, why this team hasn't gone far into the playoffs or reached the Super Bowl. And, they could have the best defense. They could have the best offensive line. They could have the best running back and one of the best wide receivers and still not make it. Now, before, it was all Jason Garrett's fault. Jason Garrett doesn't know how to coach. Jason Garrett's an asshole. And now you got Big Mike McCarthy there. And I don't think a lot of Cowboys fans think it's much different from the last regime. And Big Mike is just a big dumb dipshit that doesn't know anything. I'm not saying that's the case either. But I'm curious to see where the Cowboys go in the draft this year because the defense is good. Wide receiver is very good. They didn't really have a running game last year. So with a very potent and deep running back crew for this draft, is that something that Jerry Jones addresses? There's been a lot of people linking Ashton Genty to the Cowboys, but I am not so sure that he's going to be there when the Cowboys draft. Do the Cowboys trade up? Who knows? Just because there is a lot of depth in this running back class, so it's gonna be very interesting to see what Jerry Jones does. But like I said, does this change the landscape of the Cowboys? TBD. I mean, this could be something where, God forbid, Dak does go down again and he's missing multiple weeks and Milton just steps in and he's RG3 minus the knee injuries. You never know. And I think that's why the Cowboys, definitely with late round draft compensation, said, what the hell? Let's give this a shot, right? Let's give it a shot. So that was the NFL news. There was quite a lot of baseball news, in particularly with my Boston Red Sox. And it started out with this. This is from Jeff Passan. Breaking: left-hander Garrett Crochet and the Boston Red Sox are in agreement on a 6-year, $170 million contract extension. Sources tell ESPN the deal starts in 2026 and includes an opt-out after 2030, by far the largest deal ever for a pitcher with 4+ years of service. Meaning service remaining, not that he's been in the league, but this is his second year of MLB service. So pitcher with 4+ years of service remaining. So they had arbitration for at least 4 more years. And shortly after, I believe it was the very next day, Jet tweets this. Rookie second baseman Christian Campbell and the Boston Red Sox are in agreement on an 8-year, $60 million contract extension that includes 2 club options, Sources tell ESPN Campbell, 22, is expected to be a franchise cornerstone and is now locked up through 2034. So what does this mean for the Red Sox? I mean, obviously it means that they've locked up two of their very young studs. But it goes a little further than that. I mean, if you take Garrett Crochet in particular, they traded for him from the White Sox, sent over one of the quote unquote big four in Teal. So it was kind of, I'm not going to say a given, but all Red Sox fans wanted this to happen prior to opening day, which obviously we saw didn't happen because it just happened this week. But it goes to show you, because the last handful of years, it seems like the Red Sox have been linked to every single big name free agent, but have never signed them. This year with Alex Bregman, kind of broke the mold a little bit. But if you look at the market that kind of Bregman was open to, or that the teams that were opting for his services, there was a very small amount of teams, just because he's still not old, but he's not young. You know, it came out at the end of the season, he was looking for a very large number in that contract, 6 years, 300 plus. And especially with the Red Sox, with the young core that they have coming up, locking up a guy like this for 6 years would have been, I'm not going to say a horrible move, but you're clogging the way for one of these guys to make it up and to make their impact on the big league team. But with the extension of Crochet, to me, like I said, this was prior to the Campbell extension. This was like, okay, this is what ownership has been waiting for. This is the moment, because you sent off prospects, you sent off, especially I'm not going to say a big league ready backstop in Kyle Teal, but a very legitimate prospect in Kyle Teal. And to land a guy like Crochet, you're going to have to part with assets like that. So if this was a rental for 1 year, I think would have been absolutely dumb. And the longer that they waited, and Crochet really didn't say that he had a built-in timeline that he wanted this done prior to opening day. It's just kind of thought of like, okay, once opening day starts, that's when business starts, that's when play starts. So that the other money, the contract side, that's all going to wait. And for the Red Sox to come out and be like, here you go, this is the deal. And I think the Red Sox got a fairly fair deal here. It locks up Crochet for many years to come. It looks like he is having an absolute blast with this team. So I honestly think it's a great fit all the way around. And then what does he do right after signing the deal? Goes eight shutout innings and just deals. And is just immaculate, because if the Red Sox would have lost that game, they would have been losing, I believe, 5 straight and pretty much dropping the first 2 series of the year. And that, even losing the first series, there was a lot of Red Sox fans that are like, fuck this team. I can't believe I actually believed again. This is nothing but, just an extension of the last couple years. And there was a lot of us on Twitter just saying, calm down. This team is super young. Everyone needs to take a breath. And it'll all work itself out. And we'll kind of get into here later in the show about how well it's worked out. But then you add the Campbell extension onto that. Both of these guys, I have a feeling if they would have waited, they could have garnered a lot more money, whether it's from the Red Sox or a different organization. Because both of these guys, both of them extremely young, are going to be extremely valuable. And to have them both locked up in a Red Sox uniform is absolutely huge. And I think, yes, the the Garrett Crochet extension is very important for all of the reasons I just listed. But I think the Campbell extension is important as well, just because he's the first of the big three to get to the big leagues. And if you look at it, Campbell is, like the tweet said, is 22 years old. Last year, he went from single A to triple A in 1 year. And now, because of his versatility, because he can play second, because he can play center, because he can play left, and has been off to a fantastic start at the plate, is kind of why he's the one that got the nod out of the three to break camp with the big league squad. Now, Marcelo Mayer, shortstop. Roman Anthony, left fielder. And the outfield right now is kind of I'm not going to say a mess because Jarren Duran in left playing very well. Ceddanne Rafaela at center. That's kind of where a lot of folks are, pounding on the doors saying Roman Anthony should be up, move Durant to center, and then have Rafaela take a seat on the bench. And both Meyer and Roman Anthony have started their AAA season, both on absolute fire. And I think Roman Anthony is forcing his hand to be, I need to be on this big league squad tomorrow. And now Rafaela did have a hit in this game right now, did get an RBI. But I think the time for, and Abreu has the best OPS of anyone in baseball. I mean, the dude hosed out a guy from right, going from second to third to ninth. Dude is an absolute beast. So he's not going anywhere. So I have a very good feeling that, yes, Roman Anthony will be up sooner rather than later, but to get Campbell locked up first out of the other two is the key part here. And I'm not saying that because he's setting like the tone or the threshold for payment, but just to get him out of the way, get his deal done, get him settled, because the other two, I think, are going to be even more impactful. Excuse me. They're going to be even more impactful than Campbell is already. So to get that done and out of the way so that he is absolutely comfortable, he has his role, I think is going to be paramount when, not if, but when the other two get up. So kind of my Red Sox spiel here. But yeah, that's been the news. So let's jump into some March Madness talk, ladies and gentlemen. March Madness. We had excellent Final Four games. So let's take a peek at some of the stats here in the, see, that was Saturday. What the fuck is this? There it is. Okay. I don't want the schedule. Scores. Please hold. Okay. Let's start it off with Florida Auburn. And like I told you guys and gals last week, this was the one, I think, out of the two that was going to be the hardest to choose. However, once we get into the Duke Houston game, my pick was completely wrong. Actually, both my picks were wrong. But it was one of these things where if you look at these guys head to head, you're taking the number one overall seed in Auburn and arguably the hottest team in college basketball coming into the tournament in the Gators. And this was a fight. This was an absolute fight. This game went back and forth so many different times, and just an overall just badass game. That is pretty much the only way I can sum it up. Is this game was completely awesome. This is, and like I told you last week, for those of you that did not like that all four number one seeds made it to the Final Four, I think that I'm not going to pat myself on the back or toot my own horn, but we got two fantastic fucking games on Saturday. Neither one were a blowout. One of them went down to the both these kind of went down to the wire because we saw Florida shoot a lot of free throws coming down. And overall, this was just a badass game. Absolute badass game. And like I told you last week, coming into this game, this is the one that seemed more of a coin flip for me. This is, I was going back and forth betting wise on this all week, and I still stayed with Auburn going into this game, and there's not a whole lot to say. It was just a fantastic game. And energy was extremely high, vibes were high. This was the type of game that you want in the Final Four. This is why when all four number one seeds play in the Final Four, this is the type of game you get, ladies and gentlemen. There isn't a blowout. There isn't the hottest mid-major coming through and just getting demolished by either a Florida or an Auburn. And it takes, yes, it's cool that the little guy made it this far, but when you get this far into a tournament, I want to see the very best teams. And we got it. We absolutely got it with this one. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. Now let's flip over to the Duke game. This one, if you are a big fan of the first game, this game was even better. Even better. Duke was in control of this game up until the final minute. And I remember seeing a stat that Houston was on like a 12-0 run or something in the last minute 15 of this game. Like I said, don't quote me on the amount of points, but that was one of the stats that they flashed on CBS, and I was like, man, holy shit. It really has been that. It just seemed like this was a Duke win. Duke's just going to walk through this. It was 34-28 at half. No, yeah, 34-28 at half. And it's just like, all right, Duke's punching this ticket onto the national championship. And Houston's like, nope, not quite yet. Not quite yet. And here's a tweet here. This is what I'm talking about. This is a tweet from Sam Block at the Block Spot over on Twitter. Duke led by 14 with 8 minutes and 3 seconds left in the game. Duke led by 9 with 2 minutes and 6 seconds left. Duke led by 6 with 34 seconds left. Duke led by 3 with 25 seconds left. And Duke led by 1 with 19 seconds left. By the way, Duke lost. So let's kind of unpack that tweet here for a minute. Let's kind of unpack that tweet because he is 125% correct. And for you Duke guys and gals that are saying that, well, yes, but the ref swallowed the whistle at the end of the game that that could have changed the outcome of the game. Well, here's the tall and skinny of it. Duke had a chance to go up. There was just a handful of seconds. Duke had an inbound play they were down by 1. And it wasn't like Cooper Flagg did not touch the ball. Cooper Flagg actually took a very makeable shot and just happened to miss it. He drove the paint a little bit, kind of fadeaway jumper just off the rim. Next thing you know, Houston rebounds, Duke fouls. That's the end of the game. The key and Cooper Flagg had 27 points, led all scorers in the game with 27 points. So it's not like he came up short just with that one shot. If he would have had 29 points, this is a 1-point Duke win. So for all you Duke fans that are bitching about the refs and that with just a few seconds left, that the potential foul on Cooper Flagg, I don't want to hear it. The refs, for the most part, let these guys play, let these guys bang around, and if they didn't swallow their whistle at that point in the game, I think they're doing everyone a very, very big disservice. Because at that point in the game, you've called the game like it is, and to change it up with just a few a handful of seconds left. No, you can't do that. Can't do that. And like that tweet said, Duke had this game in the bag. In the bag. But Kelvin Sampson and his crew, this was the test I think all of us wanted to see, was Duke and Cooper Flag. How would they do against this Houston defense, this very tenacious, get after it, get on the floor, fight for every loose ball team? This is what we wanted to see. This is what we paid our money for. And we've all seen Houston be in this position and not follow through. Well, this time they did. This time there wasn't an injury to their number 2 guy or their number 1 guy, and they're having to do it without this guy or without that guy. They had their full repertoire of guys on the court. And it just goes to show you that Duke, however prolific they are, however prolific Cooper Flag is, and this is quite possibly the last game we'll see of Cooper Flag in a Duke uniform, presumably. Everyone, he's pretty much a shoe-in for the number 1 overall pick. So he's off to the NBA after this. But this is just how this Houston Cougars team, how they did things all year round. And it wasn't if, but when that defense was going to wear on Duke, and if and when they saw an opening to go for it and just slowly chop at the giant, Next thing you know, the giant falls and Houston moves on. I've always been a huge Kelvin Sampson fan, and I've even said publicly here on this show, I really want this team to win. It's just that they've gotten close to this point or to this point and just haven't been able to get it done because of, some reason, some injury, something has gotten in their way. And I just figured that this Duke team with Cooper Flag, because to me, without Cooper Flag, this Duke team is very mid. This team is very average. With him, that's the key that puts them over the top. He is the reason why I'm not going to say he's the reason why they won the ACC, because the ACC was very, very, very bad this year. But he's the reason they're number 1 seed. He's the reason that they've had the success in the tournament up to this point. So this loss isn't on him. This loss is not on the officiating. However, this win is on Kelvin Sampson, his team's defense, his team's tenacity, his team's demeanor, their attitude to get it done, to get on the floor, get the loose balls, kind of old school basketball. And we don't see a lot of that anymore. So kudos to him. Kudos to this Cougars team to move. So now they have a date tomorrow. With the Florida Gators. So let's take a look at the odds here. Okay. These are I kind of expected this spread to be a little bit bigger than what it is. Right now, FanDuel has Florida 1.5 point favorite. So ultimately, it's kind of a pick'em. It 1.5. Kind of a pick'em. Money line is Houston at -104. Florida's money line -115. Over under set at 140.5. And for right now, this is hard, 2K crew. This is hard. We have arguably the hottest team in college basketball in Florida going against one of the most disciplined, tenacious, defensive teams in Houston. Gun to my head right now, if I'm picking, give me Houston money line, and let's go under the 140 and a half. Let's go under the 140 and a half Houston money line. That's where I'm at with that. Sorry, 2K crew, my insulin pump was going nuts and it was driving me up a wall. So, but yeah, so that's where I'm at with that. You mean Houston money line and under 140 and a half. Because sitting here talking about Houston's defense, I can't really say, all right, well, give me Houston and the over. Because if I think Houston's winning, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. So, yeah, give me that. Give me that. Give me that. All right. So let's jump into some baseball here, 2K crew. What do you say? What do you say? And yes, it is Masters week, and I cannot wait. The wife and I do not leave until Friday morning, so I will be able to get to watch some of the action on Thursday. So absolutely cannot wait. Cannot wait. It's been too long. I need more Jim Nance in my life. Speaking of which, obviously a Houston alum, he was very pumped and excited that they're moving on. So hopefully they get a big dub. He can carry that momentum over into the Masters and just have an absolute amazing time there. So yeah, we've had a little over a week of baseball, and there's been some surprises. There's been some, we talked at nauseum about the torpedo bats last week. So, let's kind of take the temperature of Major League Baseball here. Let's take the temperature. I think jumping right out the gate here. There's talk that the Los Angeles Dodgers are going to win 120 games, and the way they're playing right now, 2K crew, they they just might. They just might. The only thing is, if the season were to end right now, yes, I know it's 10 or 11 games in, so we have 150 more to play. San Francisco Giants are playing better ball than the Los Angeles Dodgers. And Giants fans, this might be where you want to snapshot or screenshot this standings, because I have a feeling that you're not going to be there for too much longer. In a division where you have the Dodgers, Padres, and Diamondbacks, a lot of folks have chosen all three of those to make the playoffs this year. It would be awesome to see the Giants continue to be in that mix. It would be awesome to have, because right now the Giants are 8-1, the Dodgers are 9-2, Padres are 8-2, and the Diamondbacks are 5-5. And ironically enough, once the Yankees faced the Diamondbacks, I believe it was the Diamondbacks, they stopped hitting 9 home runs in a game. Call me wacky, call me wild, but I told you that a lot of this torpedo bat bullshit was going to be because the Brewers pitching was terrible. So that division right there, I mean, it's I'm hoping we're in for a dogfight. I really am. Just because, like I said, most everyone is picking at least 2, if not 3 of these teams to make the postseason. And kind of the biggest, we hit on the Dodgers winning 120 games. Is this Atlanta Braves team going to lose 120 games? Because if we take a snapshot right now in time, the Atlanta Braves have a worse record than the Chicago White Sox. I'm not making this up. White Sox are 2-7. Braves are 1-8. On paper, if you look at the Braves lineup compared to this White Sox lineup, you're taking the Braves lineup all day, every day. And I am being completely completely and utterly facetious. This Braves team is not going to lose 120 games. This Braves team is going at the end of the year is going to have far more wins than this White Sox team. But on Twitter, 2K Crew, this is the type of shit that if you're in baseball Twitter, this is what people are. Oh my God, the Braves are terrible. They're sitting last in the NL East. I picked them to win the NL East. This team sucks. Yeah, they suck right now. It's 10 games in. 9 games for the Braves. 9 games in. I think everyone needs to calm down. This Braves team is going to be fine. This Braves team doesn't have Acuna back yet. This Braves team doesn't have Spencer Strider back yet. 2 of your best players. 2 of the best players in the league. So everyone calm down. However, this Braves team cannot let this division get out of hand because the Phillies are 7-2. The Mets are 6-3. Hell, even the Marlins are 5-4. The Marlins have a over 500 record. So Marlins fans, screenshot this. You're over 500, at least at one point in the season. And a team that I think, and yes, if you look at I'm looking on ESPN, the standings here. If you look at the last 10, the Red Sox opened at the Texas Rangers. Lost all of those. Rangers are 8-2. Los Angeles Angels are 6-3. Mike Trout swinging a hot stick. Even after seeing 3 pitches in the season this year, gets hit in the hand. Guts it out. Obviously, he's fine. Thank gosh. But this Detroit Tigers team, even though last 10 they're 5-4, at one point, every single team in the Central had 2 wins. So every single team, hell, at one point the Chicago White Sox were winning the AL Central. And it's one of those, calm down. This Tigers team's fun, 2K Crew. 2K's is going to have an absolute amazing time following this team. As far as buzz is what's going around, the Red Sox and the Tigers are 2 very, very similar teams. Very similar teams. And I cannot wait to, it's when you have a show and one of your best friends is your co-host and your fandoms are never the same. 2Ks and I are not a fan of the same team in anything. Whether it's college football, professional football, baseball, you name it, our fandoms are separate, which makes it fun because you're not sitting here getting have 2 guys talking about one team that's all they talk about. But it sucks because it's been this way where the vast majority of the time that we've been doing this show is the Red Sox have been good, the Red Sox have been relevant, the Red Sox have played in the postseason in one World Series, whereas the Tigers have just been terrible. Now, granted, it hasn't always been that way, but it seems since we started the show, that's kind of been the MO. 2K's 2 years ago, his Wolverines, boom, national champions. So he got a winner there. But as far as anything else, his Cowboys, nope. Tigers, nope. And even prior to Michigan, his fandom sucked. And I'm not saying mine's any better, but when at least one of my teams consistently makes the playoffs, like the Red Sox, and now we're seeing kind of a resurgence with Notre Dame. The Bears, who knows? We were saying, there's a lot of people last year picking them to win the division, and they were terrible. But now things have changed there now, so let's TBD. Let's see what happens there. But I'm excited this season to go, to ride with 2Ks, to watch both of our teams, pay attention to both of our teams because they are built extremely similar. Lots of young guys, not a super huge payroll. However, Boston is a whole lot higher than the Tigers. But hell, we're even seeing Javi Baez. Javi's hitting over 300 right now with a home run. That's awesome. And he's playing short, left, and center or some shit. This is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Both have very big stud left-handed starters, left-handed aces, I should say. And like I said, just an all-around young core. And both have fantastic managers. So I'm extremely excited to take this trip with 2Ks for the 2025 Major League Baseball season. And as we sit right now, the Tigers are 5-4. My Red Sox are 5-4, which I think that's going to change because the Red Sox were absolutely destroying the Cardinals here. Let me reload this. So it was like 10-1. It's 10-2. 10-2, bottom 5. So, but yeah, these two teams are very similar, and like I said, I'm super excited. Super excited. The Yankees are leading the AL East 6-3. I'm still their run differentials plus 31, but they scored 20 in one game but gave up 8. So there's 12 of them right there. Red Sox are plus 7. Orioles sitting in the basement right now at 4-6. The Red Sox just won a series in Baltimore prior to coming home, playing the Cardinals like they are now. Kansas City's 4-5. Minnesota's 3-6. This Minnesota team is bad. Is bad. There's a chance that the Twins might have a worse record by the time it's done, worse than the White Sox. Pardon me. In this, let's see here. There's the White Sox have 2 wins, the Braves have 1 win, and the Rockies have 2 wins. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati both have 3 wins. Cincinnati easily could have 6 wins because in 3 consecutive games they lost 1-0. First time in like 100 years that's happened. But yeah, to lose 1-0 3 consecutive games, that sucks. That really sucks. That really sucks. But this season has gotten off to a bang. This is absolutely awesome. And like I said, just to kind of give you a status quo as to where everything is, Yankees have a plus 31 run differential. The Dodgers have a plus 22, Padres plus 18, and the Giants, of all people, plus 19. Plus 19. So it seems like the bats have gotten hot for a couple of these teams, and I do think the Yankees come back down to earth. I really do. They're going. I believe they're traveling to Detroit for their next series. So let's see how these torpedo bats work in Detroit, where it's a little bit bigger of a field than Yankee Stadium. A lot of those, short porch right field shots are not going to be homers. They're going to be fly ball outs. So let's see how they fare in a little bit normal, a little bit bigger of a ballpark, and then I think we'll see those torpedo bat numbers kind of calm down a little bit. But if you're asking me for my biggest surprise of the season, I told you the Giants. I would have never thought they would have gotten off to an 8-1 start. Never. My surprise on the other side, I got to go with the Braves. I really have to go with the Braves. I would have never thought they would have gotten off to this slow of a start. Let's check some stats here. And like I said, Wilyer Abreu for the Red Sox is leading a lot of these categories, leading in batting average. Aaron Judge leads for home runs with 6. Eugenio Suarez, I think, has 5 home runs, and at one point, I believe only has 5 hits. I think that's the case. RBIs, of course, you would expect Judge to be up there. Anthony Volpe is the one that I think is kind of shocking everybody, with 12, tied with Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker's been on a tear for the Cubs too. Really interested to see how they, if the Cubs actually break him off, if the Cubs give him that $500 million payout, I think a lot of people are expecting him to garner in free agency, because the Cubs, by all means, should win this should win that division. Tatis Jr. leads league in hits. Kyle Tucker is second. Riley Green tied for second. So big shout out there. O'Neal Cruz is stealing every base that he can. And let's see about pitching here. Still too early for a lot of these pitching stats. Jesus Luzardo leads the league with K's, tied with Yamamoto. I don't. They've only had 2. To put quality starts as a stat right now is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, there's still 3 guys in baseball with zero ERAs. And let's see here. Yeah, I'm not taking any of this with because a lot of these are, yeah, absolutely. They just haven't given up a run in their 2 in their 2 outings. So I'm not taking as much into the pitching stats as I am the hitting stats. Let's see here. Where does this go? Yeah, even Mike Trout has 3 home runs already, which is awesome because he has 8 RBIs. This time last year, I believe he had like 10 home runs and 12 RBIs. So at least he's ahead of that pace a little bit. What's his batting average? Not good. 171. Oof. So it looks like he's had a double and 3 home runs, and those have been his. So he has 5 hits. He must have a single, a double, and 3 home runs. That's it. And that's it. Aaron Judge leading the way with 6 home runs, 364 average. So yeah, he's kind of picking up where he left off last regular season, not last postseason. Last postseason he was terrible. But yeah, like I said, I think this is the most excited I've been for a baseball season in quite a while, just because A, my team looks good, and B, so does 2K's. And it's going to be extremely exciting keeping an eye on both these teams moving forward, because I think both these teams could and should make the playoffs. So how awesome would it be to have a Turbo and 2K's MLB playoff show? That'd be pretty sweet. That would be pretty sweet. Yeah, it's about all I got for this early on in the season. I'm just glad baseball's back. This is awesome. Cannot, like I said, I can't reiterate enough. I am super excited. Super excited. Well, 2K crew, I think I'll get out of here on that. Like I said, no show next week. 2K's has been gone. Now it's my turn to go. So yeah, we'll be on vacation next week, and so no show. But everyone have a great week, great 2 weeks. I will see you when we get back, and as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.